Guys, welcome back to another installment of Into the West Comics. We're talking about, of course, Season 1, Episode 8 of House of the Dragons. We're always trying to keep up with these Targaryens. I'm just going to keep going.
Go ahead. Love you, Frank.
I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this episode. Sort of, it's the last time jump that we get within this season. And this is when some stuff goes down. So I'm going to take your tongue, but he can keep that tongue.
Yeah. That was pretty.
What did you guys think about this episode?
The episode's called The Black Queen?
Episode?
No.
It's I think it's Lord of the Schmurs.
Lord of the Schmurs?
It's episode 7.
Lord of the Tides.
Where are we at? Oh, Lord of the Tides. We're at episode
Viserys
8.
is ill and he's drinking too much of that Similac, and he's hallucinating the milk of the poppy. Ooh. And he pulls like a Homer Simpson, and he screws up like what he was supposed to be doing. Is he's telling her about, an old story that was being passed down through generations, and Alicent takes it to mean that Aegon is the true heir, and then he passes away.
And he passes away.
Yeah.
This is when he literally has half of and not even half a face.
Right.
Yeah. He's got like his eye is dipped out.
He's
just a mess.
Dr. Doom. Yeah.
It's very scary.
He should be Dr. Doom, actually.
he should play Dr. Doom.
Or the actor who
Can I still
plays
make
Otto.
that joke even though he's
No, you cannot.
Yeah. Okay.
It's over.
Or the guy who plays Otto Hightower.
Yeah.
Let him be Dr. Doom. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
That would be great.
What did you guys think of this episode?
Probably the most heart-wrenching one.
I mean, it was deep. Him passing away, like everybody's waiting for this moment of him, like finally just fading away after you see him deteriorate over and over again.
I'm just glad the kids got it. The kids got it. They were like, we need to do this for Grandpappy.
Absolutely.
And get this.
Pap.
Yeah, Pap. We need to just enjoy this dinner. He wants us to be together.
Yeah.
We can some of the stuff. Some of the stuff is going to obviously linger,
but even then,
past his death.
As soon as he walks out of the room, they're like, "Oh yeah, you're so strong."
I know.
Bro, he roasted him.
They clown each other.
He roasted him, bro.
He's so strong.
Yeah.
The last
strong boys. They're like, murder.
Yeah.
This episode, I think, does in just one moment does the most for informing what happens in the rest of the season and into the second season, because Alicent's a dork and is like, oh, so he's saying he wants Aegon to be king.
Never mind he could be hallucinating. He's like on his way out.
Right.
Yeah.
This is what Alicent was sent in there to do. Like, make him say Aegon real fast before. He said it. You heard him. He said it.
Like,
you hear that? He said Aegon.
Right?
All of this could have been avoided if she just
He says Aegon. She puts a pillow over his face.
Yeah.
That's it. Don't say it anymore.
But yeah, that informs obviously it starts the green and the blacks, and they're beefing with each other, and who's the heir and who's it, what's it now? People are they gonna change their allegiance from Rhaenyra to Aegon? And I think it's all very interesting. It sets up a really banging final 2 episodes to this show.
And we really don't know what Aegon thinks, really. He's kind of just doing
you don't
own
know
thing.
what Aegon thinks until early season 2.
Yeah.
He's just like messing around with the help.
Oh yeah,
he doesn't have to. So you gotta take that Plan B tea.
Well,
you gotta drink that Plan B tea.
His Aegon's not infidelity, but bastardization of his family is not his in particular, but the Targaryens in general this episode has massive ties and impacts to things that happen as late as the newest episode of season 2.
Right.
Because of there's a lot of silver-haired low folk. Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they do their thing outside of the,
They be out in that booty club.
Yo.
They be out in the booty club.
What'd you think, Frank?
Yeah.
I think that this was like the last ditch effort for Rhaenyra and Alicent to kind of be friends again.
Right.
And it clearly wasn't going to work. I think that, they're sort of like toasting to each other. It's sort of like, they're trying to make kind of like a peace offering to each other.
Yeah.
There's like, it's like one last ditch effort,
Right.
and then they're just like, I'm a
what
mom.
Are we gonna do?
I'm going to protect my kids. You're going to protect your kids. This is going to go bad.
And they know this.
We're going to
everyone knows it.
And then it just goes bad. I felt like that was like the last chance of an opportunity of them actually trying to work it out. And
right.
It was sad.
It was. And I'm actually kind of glad when he took the throne, Yeah, that was a big relief to me, because I was like, I don't like seeing Otto anywhere near that throne.
Yeah.
That's who should be your Dr. Doom right there.
And I do
Your
like
Grace.
But at this point,
Grace.
I don't know if it's the actor him. I don't know if it's the lines they give him, but I do like Otto. There's something about Otto, and
he's a snake.
He is such a snake, and he's so good at it, and he's such a politician.
Right.
And he's dragging Alicent into being this politician.
Well, that's why I don't like it.
He's manipulating for sure.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
I just can't help but like him. The way he speaks is just so, you know what I mean?
Like, go in there and provide comfort to His
to
Majesty.
the king. I'm just going, oh man.
Well, this
you go, oh man.
This episode definitely has, I think, at least top 2 most shocking moments from season 1. I think episode 10 probably has the most shocking moment with the dragons. But
We'll get
You're talking about Vaemon keeping his tongue
straight chopped up was.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that I had like I knew it happened before I watched the episode.
Yeah.
And still, when it does happen, it's like,
Still nuts.
My God.
Yeah. You don't expect it at that moment, right?
And it's interesting for Daemon, because as things go on, it's like, does he really love Rhaenyra, or is it all an act because he just wants to be the king? But things like this make you think, like, did he do it because he feel like he needed to be seen doing it? Did he do it because Daemon's crazy, or did he do it because he loves Rhaenyra and he was talking crap?
That's interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
Well, their whole
definitely self-serving.
Their whole dynamic is he's swearing. She's when Rhaenyra is kind of trying to convince Rhaenys for like kind of like a merger of sorts.
Right.
It's like, look, my kids, they'll marry your grandkids,
right?
And then we can just rule this whole thing together. And then they sort of present it to Viserys, and it's like an afterthought. He's like, yeah, sounds good, cool. And then he talks about it at the dinner, and he's just like, we're gonna mash everybody together. And then they'll be the next generation of rulers, and then they'll inherit the throne and everything else. And it's just like very much how they did it, and how they kept all their power and managed it with in-house. Literally, they managed all their power to where it never had to involve people like the Brackens or the Tullys or whatever until decades later, when it started to go out of the house.
Oh yeah, everything started getting out there once Game of Thrones really started getting going. You could see how everybody was involved at that point. The Tullys,
So that leads me to a question. 2 questions, kind of. The first one being, is the fact that Rhaenyra's kids are Strongs and they're dark-haired and brown-haired, is that the beginning of the line to Jon Snow? Because he is a Targaryen.
Mm-hmm.
And he has brown hair.
We got to put that together, because it's
trying to figure out like
the
family tree as far as like how we...
Does that trickle down to Jon Snow?
And when does the Mad King... Mad King is 170 years. Is the Mad King a baby at this point? He's not even...
Mad King's not even born yet.
Not even born yet.
No. Because Jaime Lannister is the hand to the Mad King.
Right.
And that's before Baratheon even comes into power.
So that's my other question. You guys, because again...
It's so far... That's the thing about this series, and this story is so far ahead from anything that's on just regular Game of Thrones. That it's hard.
We got like 6 Aegons to go, 5-6 Aegons to go until we get to Jon Snow.
Because my question is, like I've watched the first season of Game of Thrones and some of the stuff, but I'm not. We do need Rob here because I'm not like the most well versed in the lore. Do any of you know how Ned Stark comes to be king at the beginning of Game of Thrones? How does it end up being a Stark on the throne by the time Game of Thrones starts?
At the beginning, well, he's the king of his like land, castle, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
he's the king, like kind of like a
king of the north
king at that point. As far as children being born as bastards, there's like basically 3 different large groups. They can get scaled down, but there's 3 different larger groups. If you're a bastard in the north, you're known as a Snow. If you're a bastard in like the Dorne region or somewhere in between the Riverlands and King's Landing, you are Sand. Your last name would be Sand. Your bastard name would be Sand. And that's how they kind of identify all of the bastards. Is they're kind of grouped in these three groups. It's Snow, Sand, and Rivers. And Alice Rivers is the one who will play kind of a larger role in the second season as she's kind of manipulating Daemon. And she may have played.
I didn't even realize.
She may have played a bigger part in Laris from season 1, the one who's kind of always in the ear. He's got like the foot. He's on Feet Finder, and he's kind of like he's kind of in the ear of Alicent and stuff. He's kind of playing that role. So with Jon Snow's role, it's always kind of like he is very just under the radar. He's not thought about in a high regard, and that's like the cool payoff ultimately to the whole series is that no, actually he's incredibly important to what happened for this whole story. He's actually highborn, and that Ned Stark, prior to marrying Catelyn Tully.
Yeah, she's a Tully.
That he has sort of an affair with someone who is related to direct bloodline of the Targaryens. And then he is actually Jon Snow's father, so that is like the connection point, is that the Starks and the Targaryens have like a kind of like an offshoot type of thing.
Because Cat and Ned, they weren't in love when they got married.
It's sort of like an arranged type of thing, but then they grew to love each other, obviously, because they had 4 kids, and that's...
Okay. How many seasons do you think House of the Dragon's going to be?
I was talking to our buddy Sundog about this last night. I think there's only going to be 1 more season, and I think that they're going to try to wrap it up because this is the only reason why I say yes. Why they would be 1 more season is because they're going to introduce the Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Their other spinoff series sometime later next year.
Why aren't they doing a Jon Snow spinoff series too?
I think it got canceled.
Yeah, canceled.
Whatever they were doing as far as development, they didn't like it. But the guy that they're going to introduce is Edward the Tall, who is a descendant of Brienne of Tarth. And he also has like a sidekick known as Egg, who is also an Aegon. And they get involved in a bunch of other stuff, and that I think that series will probably be the most fun of the series. I mean, I know you guys are having a ton of fun now with all these guys, marrying each other's uncles and cousins and everything.
It is wild.
It is pretty wild.
But I think that it's going to be it could end up being the most random of the series, And I've enjoyed this so far.
I would like to watch a Game of Thrones thing that isn't about trying to get the throne. Kind of like an Andor, if you will, where it's like a bunch of behind the scenes stuff and like another character just having his own little arc.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's why the Riverlands people, all those houses in the Riverlands and where it's going now, it just seems so interesting because they couldn't care less about who is on the throne. Like you ain't bullying us to do anything. Like 90% of those houses that are in the Riverland, like the Tullys and all these houses. Like
they're not too concerned. And actually, Dorne,
they have feuds.
If you're talking about like what happens in Essos and in Dorne, they talk about, they make references to the Golden Army throughout Game of Thrones. Those guys are not concerned at all about what happens in King's Landing or Westeros at all. They don't care.
It almost seems like it'd be more interesting to do a series based on
if they did, that would be pretty interesting. But I don't know how much of background stuff. We get another history book like we got with Fire and Blood. That would be like an outside looking in, and then it would kind of like because as according to brother Rob, who was with us a few weeks back, he said that the Fire and Blood is basically a 700-page history book.
Oh wow!
It's like the Silmarillion, but for it's like the Silmarillion, but for Game of Thrones.
There's almost no story. He said it's just. They just keep throwing name after name.
It's a
after
lot
name.
of history.
How do what's a deep cut? How do the Dothraki play into all of this?
Ooh,
so
Dothraki.
Shout out Jason Momoa.
I'm not 100%.
That's a whole Dothraki language.
I got the clip for this week. Yeah.
I just did
Dothraki.
All Dothraki language, right?
Oh my god,
that was amazing!
Blown away.
They yell everything.
That was like
it's scary.
I think the Dothraki haven't even been formed yet. They're really not that developed yet, because you're starting to get into stuff that gets further and further away from the order that they're trying to put in place with the Targaryens. Remember that when you see Dany, when she's younger in those first couple seasons of Game of Thrones, she's approaching all these people. She's coming to these cities, and they're all talking to her like, "We've never seen a dragon. Can you show us the cage and show us the dragon? We haven't seen one because it's been 100-something years before anybody's seen an actual dragon live." You know, so that's like that's a concept that people can't even get their heads wrapped around. So there's been tons of perversion and murder and incest and all kinds of jacked up stuff happening for decades leading into this, and the world's grown, you know, by the time you're getting out of House of Dragon times to when we get to the first season
of Game of Thrones.
I gotta
rewatch Game of Thrones.
What was is it Tyrion?
Tyrion Lannister?
Yeah, Tyrion Lannister is just going, the last time we saw a dragon, it was like the size of a dog. Like, like last, you know what I mean? Like they just start shrinking down until you don't have any dragons.
Isn't Drogon supposed to be the reincarnation of Balerion?
Yeah, I mean,
and he's gonna by the end of the show and by the end of wherever he's at in the books, R.R. Martin, Drogon's like not enormous. He's probably like the size of like Cyrax or something, or like
I think,
but he's supposed to get to be even bigger than Vhagar, Drogon.
Whether or not, getting back to the question, like we're talking about whether or not
Valerian's
three
bigger
seasons,
than Vhagar,
right?
Or was.
Whether or not there's 3 seasons will depend on how far we get into discovering wild dragons. There's only 1 episode, and then season 2 is going to end. But we're going to have the wild dragons introduced: Grey Ghost, Sheep Stealer, and Cannibal.
Oh, that's the one I was going to ask about.
And then how fast we get those dragons introduced, and then what's happening with those eggs. If those 4 eggs that they showed the beginning of this second season, the 3 eggs get lost. The 1 egg, I think, is given to one of the little kids of Rhaenyra.
Right.
Or it might be Bela's. No, it's one of the kids. I think it's one of the little kids. How fast they discover, because those eggs are supposed to be lost in the story. Like they're lost at sea, and then somebody discovers them, digs them out, and they're like, "Oh, I think these are dragon eggs," kind of thing. And then they're given as a gift to Dany in Game of Thrones.
Sheep Stealers, is it Sheep Stealer or the Cannibal is the one that's supposed to be like similar in size to Vhagar?
Cannibal is supposed to be the biggest dragon. Not interested in people at all. Has never had anyone try to ride it, and it eats dragons.
And he's supposed to be.
That's why it's called Cannibal.
It's never specified, but he's supposed to be similar in size to Vhagar.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Okay.
It might be bigger.
And I heard that he's not really in the book very much, but I would imagine if there's a dragon like that, the show will find a reason to involve him.
To introduce him.
Because Sheep Stealer's been teased so far already in season 2.
We may have seen the damage that Sheep Stealer's made in season 2 already. Okay. When you have Bela wandering through the Vale.
The Vale, yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot to get into.
Well, 1 more season. That's all. I can't believe.
I think there might have to be multiple.
I need my Allison Hightower immediately.
Guys, we are going to be going through this episode by episode. We'll be finishing first season, and then we'll get a little bit more in depth into the second season of House of the Dragon before we next year sometime, I guess. We'll be taking a deeper dive into Game of Thrones. I want to give everybody plenty of lead time for everybody to sit down and watch. We might do some watch parties. Maybe we'll sit and watch a couple episodes together or something. We can go
maybe
over
Quan will let us
stuff.
In here. We can watch multiple episodes.
Because I know he can't wait to watch Game of Thrones. Been trying to get him to watch Game of Thrones for 5 years. I'm sure he's ready to watch it now that we've been talking about it.
Before he takes a bite of pizza, he goes, nope.
But Paul, I'm excited to see what's going to happen with this second season as it wraps, and then getting into the last 2 episodes of season 1.
Yeah. I'm excited to talk the last 2 episodes of season 1 with
absolutely.
you guys.
But yeah, if you guys haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. We would appreciate it so much.
Comment.
We hope that you have a great night. Comment. Tell us who your favorite dragon is.
Yeah.
And
between us four.
The truly dragons.
Which one would you like to ride?
Yeah. All right. Paul.
Yes. Leave in the comments what dragon you'd like to ride.
Good job, Paul.
Out of us.
Of the dragons.
Paul, you're the best. That was
awesome. Good job, Paul.
Thanks, Shane.
I love you.
We love you, Eva.
My big hand.
She's not watching this one.
Nope.
Oh, well.
Love you.
Then I take it back. We don't.
Love you, Quan.
I hate you.
Oh, man. Good times. Had by all.